it's kind of surprising to me it took this long for people to feel threatened. So I think it's a real opportunity, um, but I think it has to be talked about completely differently than every conversation I see that's going on. Because once you're into the actual dynamic of what it means within the economic, political, social, so all the different realms in which people live, uh, then it's like taking your job, or is it going to take over the world or something like that? Some of these extreme, all these different, and those are interesting, but to my mind, that isn't actually as interesting as uh, what I need to preserve. I'm just for myself. What I need to look into my own process to preserve, and in my relationship to somebody else, preserve what the aura of something, of a direct connection. That seems like basic to being human, or in some kind of way. And then it's also connected to nature in a very natural way, in some kind of way. So that needs to be preserved, to be kind of maybe for some people rediscovered, and for others nurtured. What's there is nurtured if it's already there, and then kind of mutually supported. So I mean, there's a lot of detail, but that's just the general gist of what. So again, thinking about it again, the last few days again, it just with the idea of what we're going to think about doing at some point with this project here is trying to identify. I talked to Hung Chur yesterday about she's going to do a lot of the retreat. She's not going to be able to do it in person, but she was willing to do a lot with meditation and a lot of instruction around, identifying the methodologies of getting to where the ground of this consciousness, mind, awareness is. And she could, when in talking about it, she was really good at seeing it's going to be really important for her to give people the skills to point them towards really being able to look into the issue, because it's right now, it's the difficulty is having people have a sense of confidence and skills to look into the issue in their own experience. So that takes somebody with some unique contemplative skills of reflection, which she does have. So I'm really looking forward to giving her more and more of a platform to sort of bring people to identify how to go about uh, identifying their own process for themselves, kind of empirically in their own process, a sense of where they need to develop the place of observation, sort of. And then I think if we have enough people involved in that, I do think it's naturally a supportive community, because the supportive community for that is really different than other communities, because they're not there for all the purposes. Most communities are there for a bunch of other purposes, and this is just the purpose of existing, which is a different purpose. So I was thinking about this morning. I mean, just existing is actually pretty good. Just existing would be actually really, really good. So yeah, having people be able to get a sense of just existing and how to kind of settle in that, in their bodies, in their relationships, in their minds, in their emotions, be able to just sort of settle into something that was pretty grounded, solid, aware, and so forth. So anyway, that was. They did a big study. A big study came out yesterday on medical treatment using AI versus actual real doctors that were actually consulting for a pretty large number of people. And then the information was given and the outcome was, and then a body of doctors and health professionals went over the outcomes without knowing whether it was AI induced or from a real life doctor. And 78% of the people getting treatment felt it was that what was superior turned out was AI driven rather than actual human driven. So, and that's just a start, I mean, so AI, given most people's personalities, AI will be a lot more successful than most people's personalities. If it doesn't actually have to do the emotions of energetic care, but can just pretend to be energetic care with words, it's going to do a lot better than you are going to do with that with energetic. Any of you are going to do with energetic care either. Consistently over a lot of people, because remember we're talking about the difference between you with one person you care about that you might put a lot of attention to a system that's relating to everyone over the course of an entire day. And when you think of a doctor, for instance, or healthcare, and they are human beings, they're going to go through, and they got to go through a patient every 20 minutes. I don't even know how they make it through one day. I mean, every time I see a doctor, I can't believe you're even paying attention here for 15 minutes with your day. I would never want to do this, whatever you're doing. This is crazy. So, so got to remember this: the machine can constantly come at it and never gets tired, never has any emotions yet, never has a bad day, never had a hangover or something. You can see why it's going to be very difficult to make a space that you can create. Already in the conversation, to create a space that gives a value to both human experience and consciousness and our relationship with other human consciousness, and give it a place of meaning or value comparatively or something is already difficult here. No, I mean, as you begin to start thinking about all the things that you're doing that AI could do, and interacting with things that you can begin to see it's going to be hard, as I said at the beginning, to find where something ends up existing that's uniquely human experience, and the experience of human experience existentially, of actually being aware and alive and experiencing in the dynamics of our own experience, where the value that's going to actually lie. That's going to be hard enough, but to see where the value of that actually lies in someone else is going to be even more difficult. So we have to find a quality. You have to discover that there's which is today's project a little bit. You'd have to identify a quality of experience that's different and valuable in an exchange with an actual living being's presence or experience, or nature's presence or experience. If we can't do that, then I'm not sure that everything isn't duplicable. It's not going to be, again, measured. So the word measured, see, again, that's a scientific term. And as soon as you use measured, it's going to be duplicable. Okay, so I just guarantee you that anything that lends itself to scientific measurement will be better AI, will do better at AI measurement. Because measurement's already an abstraction of experience. I know we've gotten used to thinking scientifically as that's real, but that's all very abstract. I mean, everything measurable is abstract. So, if we're, from Buddhist terms, if we're looking into the conditional, everything in the I said in that little clip, everything in the conditional will be more efficiently understood with AI than it is with human intelligence. That's a given. I mean, it'll be more quickly strategically figured out and be more like whatever the dynamics of the condition is, because it'll be able to see a higher degree of causation. But this should be no surprise from a Buddhist view. I mean, a lot of other views I can see how they would have lots of problems. I mean, it's yeah, the conditional's condition. Conditional is infinite amount of complexity. Okay, the human mind can only understand so much. The Buddha said, well, then we apply views. The views can only see it from a perspective, and therefore we can never understand what's actually going on. That's just reading from a sutra text. Okay, so what's happened is that we moved into only living in the conditional, uh, and so and we have very little reference left to not seeing ourselves or judging ourselves in markers related to conditional, and that's why uh, we're at a point where the AI could take over so many functions because of not necessarily what human nature, human experiences fundamentally is, but because of what we've done with identifying ourselves within that in certain kind of categories that lend themselves to be. So then the issue is for yourself, you have to find those categories, you have to find a way to experience elements of both your own process and other relations that isn't duplicable in that way. I mean, I think there are. I mean, I think if I was sitting, if I'm sitting down with somebody and I'm really putting my attention on them, and I'm not in my desire need, I'm not in a strategic relationship, to get a meeting done. I'm not in all the different ways that people are. Uh, I actually do believe that if you both internally in your existence of your own awareness and bringing that awareness to an interaction with nature or other people, if you are actually able to bring that attention in a certain kind of way, that there is a unique aspect to that exchange. And in order for AI to duplicate it, it would have to be an entity unto itself. In other words, it doesn't duplicate it by it can't duplicate it. It can't duplicate that experience. I can't say it couldn't have its own experience. Um, I can't say it couldn't have its own experience of whatever in its own sense of itself, because it'd be impossible to know what it's experiencing within its own self. But it's not duplicable. It doesn't take the place. It would not take the place. And I go back about a few steps because it seems to me that what the anxiety that you're talking about are your friends that are a lot on social media is that anxiety of not being connected in that way is already there. I don't think AI's added anything to that. I think that the whole exchange through social media and so forth keeps people entertained and busy, but doesn't actually relate to what I'm talking about, doesn't create a deep connection that satisfies that fundamental element of human consciousness or awareness. And so it's never satiated. It's always like everyone's always in being, their mind's taken up and their senses are taken up, but it's not satiated in any kind of way. It doesn't actually make contact because that requires a different level of engagement than the internet provides. So everybody's just ill at ease, and a little bit satiated and kind of taken up, but not really settled, not really content, not really still quiet, contented, always contented and satiated. Aren't you always contented and satiated? Oh, so there's a caring to do something and something to do aren't the same thing, right? So places you are and food you got to eat and grocery store. And so life requires you to exist within the condition, which is all these things that the body does in interaction. And then you just do them. So you don't use up any energy. You can drive all day, teach all day, and you don't use up any energy because you're not doing anything. It looks like you're doing something. I'm like, right now, it looks like I'm doing something. I'm not doing anything. That's what human intelligence is for, setting up the conditions that allows you to exist. But what we've mistaken is the conditions for existence. And the AI can, all AI is about is the conditions. It's not existence. It's just setting up conditions. And it can be very efficient. But you have to deal with all of you that your primary frustrations are very likely right now setting up conditions that you have set up that you're in control of. And we're not going to, I mean, we're not going to have a choice. You're not going to take on AI. Nobody's going to take on this thing, you know. I mean, it's just going to happen. So, and nobody's going to take on capitalism. I mean, there's no politics or anybody that can take on, you know, when the hedge fund managers decide there's money here, then, you know, we're going there because nobody has any control over the top 1% doing anything they want. You know, nobody even tries. So, you know, if there's money to be made there, that's going to drive it. It doesn't have anything to do with anything should be or would be or could be or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, but again, the point from the beginning of our conversation, then you have to really discover the place that you're talking. You know, how would we create conditions for people to discover that place, since it looks like it would have people will have no choice. I'm not sure if it's actually really a choice at this time, you know, really. So if your identity's been set up in the values of that, then you find you're basically doing meaningless. You know, everybody's going to find what they're doing is basically meaningless. And most people have built their identity around what they do, right? So finding out that you're totally meaningless in every way might be hard to take. I don't know. I recognize I was meaningless a long time ago. So, but it will be hard for people to take that they're meaningless.